Hello, and this is a new episode. So, last time I was showing prime of the complexity that I was having problem improving the source code because of the very complicated set of ifs and line numbers and actual bugs which I found. So I ended up with an example of code where we had a lot of lines with some comments, but base2tap was not able to handle that. So the next day I did a fix for base2tap, and now after that it was handling comments correctly. But then on the forum, we had some question from Maximus asking about how to handle labels in BASIC. He's currently working on a new epic role-playing game, and the entire team is working in BASIC, and having to deal with line numbers, it's really not cool, especially if you are more than one person. And another BASIC related question was a question I asked about how to handle multiple if then else. So if you remember, in the source code of Encounter, we often have this kind of case where we do have twice the same variable being checked. In this case, it's when the player is using something like the twine to strangle somebody. And because the BASIC is relatively primitive, if then else is delicate to use. If you have only one if then else, it works nicely, but if you have more than one condition, the problem is that you don't really know on which if the else belong to, because basically the way the system works is that the BASIC interpreter sees a if, interprets the condition, sees a then. If the condition was true, it's going to run whatever was after the then, and if the condition is false, it's going to try to find the first else it finds. So in this particular case, is it else that goes with this if tw equals 0, or is it else that goes to the if s$ equal twine? Which is the reason why this thing has been split in two lines, while normal BASIC or C++ with scoping, you could have done that in one single line. The first to check if you are looking at the twine, and the second check being, do we have it or not, and then react differently. But as I indicated it, I found a solution, which I'm going to show that it actually does work. I hooked that in the code. So as you can see, traditional double if, croak with the twine, you don't have any twine, croak with the hose, you don't have any hose pipe. And we have the exact same display here. And if I list that, you can see that if twine, if hose, if twine, then else if, blah, blah, blah. So it's going to be easier on the actual source code. So here is what I did. I did a small data table just to simplify the test. And I'm testing all the combinations of the keyword and the value equal to 0 or not equal to 0. So this is the original code. We read the first case is twine on 0. If it's twine on 0, then let's run it again. Croak with the twine. Second case, you don't have any twine. Croak with the hose, you don't have any hose pipe. And this is a solution I came up with. It is not super elegant, but I guess it kind of makes sense. Basically, the trick is to diffuse the naughty search for the else that the BASIC does when something fails. So instead of checking for inequality, you check for the opposite. You immediately do then else. So basically, if this is equal to twine, it's going to go to the next line. If it is not equal to twine, then it's going to do the else. So, which means that this else goes with this if, which means the next else goes necessarily with this if. So we can have one single line. The first, we check the things we are looking for. On the second, actually check the variable, do we have it? Croak with the twine, we don't have it, display an error message. I believe that it's actually cleaner because a lot of part of Encounter is based on finding out what are we talking about and can we do something about it. And that doubles the number of lines in this case. So I did some actual implementation in the code using this pattern, which I can show a bit later. And then the second thing is label in BASIC. So I extended the base to tap. So as you can see, now we can have a bunch of commands and have this magic label. I made it a source code instruction because I'm planning to extend the basic with more things, like maybe include some text files directly, or maybe some inline assembler. So it's easier than using command line parameters. And so this is how it looks like. Game start. So I can see I still have the line numbers, but now I have go to initialization. What are you going to do now? So just to show, because I still have that, I'm going to recompile. Hello. Okay. Iris text list. So line 1, go to 100, jump to game start. And what we have here is go to initialization, jump to game start. And as you can see, initializations is there and it matches the line 100. So basically what I did is that I added possibility to have labels which automatically match to whatever line number is following them. So it's not a fully auto-generated line numbers, it's going to happen later, but at least what it means that you can identify a function which is used often, like for example, what are you going to do now? And which I guess was 10,000, yes. And every single place where you have it, it's going to be automatically replaced by the line number, which in this case is go to 10,000, go to 10,000, blah, 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 blah. On line 41, go to 10,000. The code itself stays the same. Same thing here, we have go sub initialize graphics mode. It gets transformed in go sub 50,100. And you are in a deserted market square, go sub 50,200 is show location description. If girls in the inventory, you have made it, congratulations, go to 3020 is actually show final score. And so I'm going to extend that on all the instructions that require line numbers. So the problem I had is that BASIC is very ambiguous. As you can see, it's go sub initialize graphics mode. There is no space. BASIC just handles that without any problem. If GL equals less than 0, then print, no space, same thing. So a standard parser as used in other language don't work. You really need to check as soon as you have one new expression, you have to check all the characters to see if it's an entire keyword, and then if the next one is also a keyword. So after go to and goes up, it's not much of a problem because it can only be a line numbers, it can be a variable, but it's only a line numbers. But after then or else, you can have an implicit line number, like not sure if I have an example here. Yeah, like here. Then 13,000. It's a direct instruction, but here it's a variable affectation. In some cases, then print something. So what follows then or else is not necessarily a line number. And so I had to do specific code for that. So it's not very beautiful, but in full screen it's kind of view. Full screen, shift tab, enter. So base to tap add an optimize option. So I had to extend base to tap to handle the token codes. And now the code is a bit complicated. So if it's a go to or a go sub or a restore or a then or else, I'm probably going to have a switch case later, but it was easier like that. Then we process a possible line number, but specifically in the case of a then or else, we also need to see if we have separators behind, followed by an actual keyword. Because I had some bugs where I will have something like then print, the system will miserably fail trying to do a go-to print, which was not what we wanted. Same thing for the restore, which was necessary because these instructions to draw the graphics, they have to also support line numbers. So if then else go to go sub, the one thing I have not yet handled, I'm going to do that next weekend, is these ones. I'm associating things to variables, so variables need to be able to support actual labels. Which also means that all the locations will have to have some labels associated to them, and then when this is done, I can start removing line numbers. It is going to be painful, but I guess it's worth it. So let's see what it looks like. So action get, drop, throw, kill, open instead of line numbers. So this is what it looks like in the actual program. Instead of go to 10,000, what are you going to do now? Goes up 8,900, become show location. That one becomes show location description. So I think all that makes the code a lot easier to understand. This goes up 8,900, become load picture from the show location. Here we see that we are loading the data for the ladder and we are drawing it. Then I have the sub function with for the various actions. So the attack of the dog. Here the player failed. The generic dispatcher for the room, which start asking what are you going to do now, which is there, which start by doing a victory or failure check. Here instead of goes up 50, 400, it's ask player. Then instead of this giant dispatcher with number, we got action get, drop, throw, kill, open, climb. If you press I, instead of going to 14,000, you display inventory. I reorder some of the thing as well. Like these ones are all the actions that works with the container. And these ones are just direct actions. So the dust, the yellow powder, the water, the dove, the gunpowder, and the petrol need to be transported in some sub-container. I also found some bugs. Let's see if I can remember. There was something about the dog and the dove, which apparently, so the variable for dog is, oops, where is the dog? Yeah, Alsatian dog, DG for dog, but I found out that sometimes it was called DB, which probably means it was a Doberman at some point. On the large dove, PG for pigeon, sometimes we are called DV, which is also dove. So I suspect there is a significant number of places in the game which actually did not work, which were never tested. I also found a way to simplify the inventory management with containers. Instead of having the secondary variable that tells us in which container things are, we can exploit the fact that each of our variables are equal to 0 when they're in the inventory, 99 where they are lost somewhere out of the game, or a positive value between 0 and 99 if they are in some location, which leaves us all the negative values, which can be used to say in which of the 5 containers, bucket, box, fishing net, plastic bag, and tin, I guess the container number 4 somewhat disappeared during the game design, which will allow to remove WW, Y, B, G, E, E, and PP, which are not really necessary. There, inventory, show final score, victory, failure. So yeah, so that's about it. And I can just show that the game still works just fine. That's generally where things crash horribly. North, get keys. Abandon car, get twine, north, get knife. You can see that the restore to get the ladder still works. Can go south. Throw knife, poor dog, up, up, east, east, kill, drug, strangle with what? Twine, clock. And there you go. I found a pistol, it's not loaded. Get pistol. So yeah, I guess it's all for today. So I have one more week to work, and then I'm in summer holidays, so that should give me a few continuous days to actually finish everything I want to do for the game. So I'm not sure how far I'm going to go. Hopefully I should be able to release a complete version of Bass 2 tape with complete support for the labels. If there is any other thing that you think would be welcome to have in the tool, you're welcome. But yeah, I think it's going to be okay, and not having to handle line numbers should definitely be a big improvement. So yeah, have a good end of weekend, and see you next time. Bye bye.